Hi, I'm Rebecca Tweed. Thank you to Sudha, Jamthe, and Roxy Stimpson for inviting me to take part in today's IoT Day event. So, I wanted to take a few moments to talk to you today about how facial recognition technology can transform an automated building and to answer questions like what does an automated building become and how does an automated building function when you add facial recognition technology. So I'll close by addressing what are the potential pitfalls of including facial recognition technology into our automated buildings, whether private venues, public buildings, or even our own homes. So there's a decidedly utopic vision for what an automated building personalized through facial recognition could look like, where your own face could unlock your front door to let you inside, where you're a VIP at every concert you attend. You can skip the line and just walk right in thanks to your face. And personalized ads greet you in the beer line, where backstage passes aren't on lanyards because restricted entries are assessed according to your face. And while you're gone, your home is surveilled by Nest cams and Ring doorbells that will eventually be able to determine exactly who is in or around your home, uh, provided they aren't misidentifying those individuals. And schools are secured against intruders, people like expelled students or felons or sex offenders. And that sounds awesome, but what does that actually look like? And what are we actually trading for this? So let's start with private buildings. My own interest in responsible technology was sparked by the use of facial recognition technology within opt-in style apps, um, ones that offer expedited entry and VIP access, specifically in live music events. So this type of expedited entry, it's offered in a variety of venues, from live music venues, some of which are arenas, like Madison Square Garden, that also host basketball games or other sporting events, to places like baseball stadiums that offer expedited entry based on biometrics like iris scans or FRT. Conferences, once we're able to return to in-person conferences, can restrict entry to backstage areas using this kind of technology, allowing access only to speakers or to VIPs, or allowing attendees with different types of badges to have different levels of access. And you might have even heard that Disney World has started testing FRT's use in its Magic Kingdom theme park. So the buildings in which you're most likely to have already run into this type of technology in an opt-in fashion is in airports, where expedited check-ins using biometrics are already widely in use. There are also similar uses for FRT within automated buildings to control the flow of people in and out of spaces, primarily to restrict entry, not to allow expedited access. And these are not opt-in uses attached to any kind of app or kiosks that you would approach for your own convenience. Um, there are apartment buildings in Moscow right now that have replaced keys with facial recognition technology, requiring your key as your face. So there are casinos in Macau that won't allow cheaters or problem gamblers onto the premises. Um, Not necessarily because they're concerned about anyone's addiction, but because it's an expensive liability for the company. There are schools that use FRT as another tool to secure the building against unwanted visitors or people who shouldn't be on the premises. And another use within schools is in attendance surveillance, which is very common in China. Another institution that uses FRT as an attendance tool is churches. So when I was growing up, you had to sign the registry to prove that you were in the pew on any particular Sunday, but now churches can become automated buildings that are outfitted with facial recognition technology for this purpose. And then, of course, there are the ways in which the home itself, your personal domicile, becomes an enhanced automated building once facial recognition technology is introduced. So since safety is paramount, It's an extremely effective point of emphasis when marketing this kind of technology to consumers. So safety is what receives the bulk of the attention. So it makes up a bulk of the use cases within the home, but there's also a premium placed on FRT as a luxury item that enables extreme personalization of your home. Think of the original purpose of Nest to set your personal temperature preferences, and you can check out any CES convention highlights, and you'll see all the ways that AI-enabled IoTs can make your home some kind of oasis of personalization. I've seen personal appliances like AI-enabled smart toothbrushes and makeup mirrors that can tell you what works and what doesn't, all the way to smart toilets and shower heads. So it's not a stretch from there to see how facial recognition could be poised to take all of these things to the next level. As FRT-enabled IoT devices like Ring doorbells and Nest cams can transform homes into personalized automated buildings. These are highly opt-in for the consumer, but not so much so for guests or delivery people, let alone random passersby and neighbors walking their dogs. So what are the potential pitfalls and the downsides of automated buildings that use facial recognition technology? So starting with our own homes, Ring doorbell footage can be subpoenaed by law enforcement. In some cases, the homeowner will be asked to consent to use the footage, but there are certainly people who will feel compelled to respond affirmatively to that kind of request, whether they want to or not. This becomes a more pressing problem when you consider that Amazon has applied for patents to supply the Ring doorbells with FRT. So entire neighborhoods become a web of surveillance that can easily be accessed by law enforcement. And if that weren't enough, these home surveillance devices are not necessarily as secure as we would like to think they are. There have been instances of Nest cams being hacked, even baby monitors hacked, which opens the door to potential foreign espionage or other nefarious actors having intimate access inside our homes. So even these opt-in style facial recognition tools used for access aren't without potential problems. There's a concern that this type of technology could be implemented for one purpose, like in music venues, but it then could be used in other ways. For instance, in China, law enforcement used these tools to locate and arrest people for very minor offenses. And to extend this to outdoor events and festivals, in Brazil, police used FRT-enabled closed-circuit cameras during Carnival to arrest 130 or so people with outstanding warrants. So when used at mass events, whether it's indoors or outdoors, this technology can easily turn into a tool that squashes dissent, discourages people from participating in peaceful protests. If you have to worry about being surveilled and arrested at the next concert you attend, that can suppress speech and impinge on people's freedom. Similarly, Macau's casinos, they use the technology for security purposes to keep certain people out, but it's also been reported that these same technologies are also used to track which bettors are most likely to lose the most money in an attempt to cater to these customers and provide additional perks in an attempt to keep them betting. Similar scenarios potentially play out in schools, where facial recognition is initially used for security purposes. But what happens once it's installed? What safeguards are in place to assure that these tools are only used for specific purposes? School security, of course, takes on an increased urgency in the United States in light of lax gun laws and an epidemic of mass shootings in schools. But these tools can definitely lend themselves to a sort of mission creep, where many smaller problems are tackled using the same type of solution. And do we really want to be surveilling minors in this way? Also, in airports, these biometric check-in options run the risk of normalizing the use of the technology in airports more generally, potentially loosening public scrutiny on programs like the Department of Homeland Security's Biometric Exit Program, which uses facial recognition surveillance on people leaving the country to see if they might have overstayed their visas. Then there are the more speculative questions about how these tools could be used. Not saying they will, but when it comes to these larger events and venues using these tools for security, they can easily cross over from defensive to offensive. For example, when Taylor Swift performed the halftime show at the 2018 Rose Bowl, a kiosk was set up that played rehearsal footage of Taylor Swift in an attempt to lure any of her hundreds of known stalkers in order to use facial recognition to identify them upon entering the kiosk. It's not a stretch in light of that and how Carnival was used in Brazil to capture people with outstanding warrants, to see how mass events like sporting events and concerts could be used in ways that bait or lure ordinary people into a surveilled setting in order to detain or arrest them. Generally speaking, when we outfit our homes and our public and private buildings with facial recognition technology, whether it's to more efficiently let people in or more effectively keep people out, or for any other reason, we are giving up our data, and we largely have no idea how that data will eventually be used. FRT can be used to personalize and enhance automated buildings in exciting ways, but we should not ignore the potential pitfalls and the ways that the technology can be weaponized, especially we should be absolutely paying attention to how these could be used to potentially harm the most vulnerable groups in our society.